everybody. Welcome back to the Accommodation Show. Today I am joined by Brett Salter from ALH Group or ALH Hotels. He is a leader in the space. He's incredibly knowledgeable, but beyond anything, his portfolio is absolutely enormous. I'm looking forward to chatting to you today, Brett. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Bart. Great introduction. Thank you.
Look, I really look forward to doing these interviews because I know that you have so much knowledge that you'll be able to share with everybody, and you have a unique perspective on things that very few people in the world and across the country will have, being in the position that you're in. So, first of all, thanks for spending the time with us. And for those that don't know you, that don't know who you are and what you do, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. National Accommodation Manager for the Endeavour Group, which is the head company that oversees ALH Hotels. We've got so anything to do with accommodation in the portfolio is the accommodation team. So we joined in 2014. Back then it was myself and one other that joined to develop and create an accommodation department. And it's a huge business. It's a huge business in retail. It's a huge business in hotels, pubs, restaurants, and sports bars. So the accommodation we inherited, or the company inherited over the years, and we walked into 85 accommodation sites that back then didn't have a lot of consistency. That we knew that we needed to take that to a whole new level. So it was a case of, where do we start? And my background was in hotel franchise or a global hotel franchise. So I spent many years not only running hotels, but talking to many independently owned operators in motels, hotels, and resorts. So it was a great grounding for walking into ALH and looking at where we take accommodation to a whole new level.
Yeah, wow. So look, so you've been there for 8 years now, and then you've been sort of developing this nightcap brand. When I first joined this industry, so I came from the restaurant industry, but into hotels. I was one of the first ones that hit my radar, and I could see what you guys were doing and where you were going. And I've seen that progression of the nightcap brand and what you've been doing. But I'd love you to. So we're going to talk about that brand and the different brands and how you divide up 80 accommodation sites. I'd love to understand what that portfolio looked like back in the day, and what does it mean? Was it all in one location? Was it all over the country? Were they all the same? Were they different? What kind of for the lack of a better word, mess did you walk into, and how much of a mess did you think it was when you first started?
Look, but I knew I wouldn't call it a mess. It was a huge opportunity, and it was a new focus for the business. So when you walk in, the first thing I did was visit every site within the first 12 months, and then work through, speak to the teams on site, understand our product. What have we got? What are the opportunities? Who's our guest, and who might be our target guest, and work through number one is once we understand our guests and our products, because there were pub rooms, there was pub rooms with shared facilities, there's motel style rooms in suburban. I'd say 70% of our portfolio is more suburban locations right through Australia, and the remainder through country and regional destinations. And there's some fantastic hotels within the portfolio. And then we knew we had to work smarter, and we couldn't go to a client, whether that be a corporate client back then or a sporting group or even one of our suppliers, and say, hey, stay with us because we've got more than 80 locations. We didn't have a brand, we didn't have a central website, we didn't have consistency. And so the first thing we had to do was understand our guests, and then to create a consistent product, create a consistent standard, and work our way through a number of locations. So I had an interior designer follow me around the country, and we worked our way through, once we knew the guest and what we were trying to achieve, is then create a brand. So our long-term goal, which we launched 4 years ago, was to create a brand, one central website, so we could provide the nightcap traveller uh, a consistent product right through the country. So today, we've got 71 nightcap sites with a consistent standard, with a consistent brand promise, and with a consistent offering, which is going great.
That's key, and I think that anyone that's looking at this sort of stuff for any kind of brand, it's those three elements which you said just there. So you've got the consistent standards, the consistent brand promise, and what was the last one that you mentioned?
Well, I can't remember now, but it's just we've got the coverage as well, and a consistent experience where one
Yeah.
thing that we can offer when you own and manage so many sites is you can be very clear about your brand promise, and one of the key aspects is a great bed. Every one of our nightcap hotels has a fantastic Australian-made king coil bed that we've created the specs for.
Mm. So, look, I've got so many questions, and so for everyone in the audience, what we will be doing today and what we're going to be focusing on is building out this brand and what you need to think about and how you go about it. And the first part of the whole process that you've said is understanding the business, understanding what you've got already. So then you can build from there. And you said that you traveled around with an interior designer that was looking at the rooms on an individual level. And then what about the sort of the creating that brand promise, creating those consistencies through the business? Because obviously you can't walk in there in day one and say this is what we're going to do because everything's all over the place. How do you go and start to rationalize it and go, all right, these are things that one are important to our clients, two that we can actually execute and achieve, because obviously you've got being such a disparate business, you've got to make sure that there is that consistency. Do you also have a team in the background of graphics people and ideas people, or does it all just come from you naturally to build out the brand? So how do we go from 80 disparate accommodations to saying this is what the nightcap brand is going to be?
I'm fortunate enough to have a fantastic team with me, a team of four others. I don't make decisions; it's a team effort. So we are continually talking internally, but we also have more than 1,000 guest reviews per week across the entire portfolio. So that gives us a lot of sentiment on we're not creating a brand what we think. Part of it is, but we're creating a brand on what the guests want. And we before we launched the brand, we continually looked at guest sentiment and went back to a number of sites. If our goal was to, from a guest rating perspective, to be a minimum 8.6 out of 10, then what are the areas we need? What are the areas they love about our properties and our sites, which is the bar, bistro, the whole inclusive experience. What are the areas that we need to improve on? In one particular site, south of Sydney, we had to go back and double glaze because it was on a main road. We knew that that was a key area. A guest, not only were they sleeping in one of our signature king coil beds, but they couldn't get to sleep because of the noise. So we had to go back and fix that. So yeah, you're continually reviewing what guests are saying to make sure that we are true to the brand promise. And we wanted to create something that was unique. Something we're not boring. We're a very unique group and a very unique brand, and we wanted to be very unique in the country. Um, there's a lot of boring brands out there that doesn't interest me,
Mm.
and hence why. And we're not a cookie cutter model. Every hotel that we brand is unique to the design and the colours, and we'll work through a little bit about the history of the property. Is it beachside location? Is it internal? And does our guest sentiment change a little bit? If is it more leisure than corporate or vice versa? So
Yeah.
there's a lot to take in, um, but the main thing is absolutely guest satisfaction, and they all can enjoy when they arrive and walk into their room the key aspects. And there's a difference between design in a room that the designer wants and also functionality. And that's where, I mean, you would have aspects of your stay that you love, and there's areas of this stay that you question. Spent 15 years prior traveling every second week for business, and there's nothing worse than pulling the bed out to find a PowerPoint because you need to charge your phone. There's nothing worse than not having adequate lighting by the bed, or the TV. Now it needs to be smart TV. The Wi-Fi isn't strong enough, so it's all those areas that we need to make sure that's functional for our guests. You open up a fridge in a nightcap hotel, you'll get free bottles of water. You don't need to walk downstairs and try and find the local shop. You walk into the bathroom, and they're generally newly renovated with a nice big rain shower with adequate lighting over the mirror, and also functional for cleaning. We will try and have large tiles that are easily cleaned and maintained. Less grout, the easier it is to clean, and just simple things like that. So it's important from a brand perspective to have the right design that's functional as well for the guest, and also easily maintained.
So that kind of leads me on to the next sort of bit. So as you're teasing out what guests are looking for and what they need, and I really like that tip about going back and listening to your guests. It seems like it's super obvious, but sometimes it's something that we might not draw on as much as we potentially could to get those key points of what's actually going on in the business, and especially when businesses are looking to change. And this is one thing that happens a lot is people go, oh, I know my business. I absolutely know my business. But then you go back and look at the past 6 months worth of reviews, and the reviews are different from what you actually thought they were. And then particularly where you're working with 80 different sites as well, you're getting that constant feedback of what the guests want and how things are going. Now, so then you've got the 80 sites. They don't have a common brand and a common theme. I guess, did you know from the outset that you were going to create one brand to unite them all?
It was obvious for me. We could not go to market to, as I said, corporate clients, leisure clients, travel agents, and 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 create loyalty. I mean, and what did we need to do? I mean, the three things on a brand. What do we want to achieve? We need to create and drive sales. We need to drive loyalty, and we need to drive profitability. So you can't do that with, back then, 80 individual sites all running very independently with no consistency. So that was absolutely the goal. Create a consistent product, ensure that it's the right product for the guest, ensure that it's very unique, and it's different in the market but still ticks many boxes. We are all about adding value, so making sure that the guests are not only satisfied, but they are going to return. And the main thing is, it's profitable, and we can see. So today we have 71 branded sites, and we've still got more than 40 unbranded sites. So we're continually looking at, was the brand the right result? Are we heading in the right direction? And we can see that brand for us last month had 18% occupancy points higher than non-brand. So we can see that we're driving a lot more demand and guests through our brand, because they can go to our nightcaphotels.com.au website. They can search across multiple locations. They know what they are going to get when they get on site. Against the non-brand, we're driving increased direct business, and the key, as I said, is it more profitable? Yeah, absolutely, it is.
Yeah. So I think that the benefits of the brand to me, from my background, I completely understand it, especially with that consistency, and you can get more profitability out of each location, more occupancy and that sort of stuff, more direct bookings. The loyalty part that you mentioned, we can do that through really strong consistency, as you said before. So be it the way that we train our staff, be it on the service delivery, be it on the in-room experience and that sort of thing. A lot of companies then try to leverage, like the frequent flyer point systems and say, well, that's how we're going to drive loyalty. To me, I don't believe that. I think that can work at scale very well. But if we don't have that scale, it's hard to drive loyalty programs. Does Nightcap have a loyalty program, and are you guys playing in that space?
Not yet, but it's certainly an area that uh, Endeavour, our company, do very well in Dan Murphy's. There's more than 5 million members, which is one of the most successful loyalty
Successful.
programs in Australia. We haven't yet integrated any or created, I suppose it's a project in the pipeline for the next year or two, is what does that look like? So we're still, as a brand, very new in the journey of what we're trying to achieve, and then what does this look like in the next 3 or 4 years. Our goal is to be the number one brand in Australia in the suburban and regional locations for economy and mid-scale, and people looking at great value for money within a hotel and pub environment where you got the bar, bistros, and all the other entertainment facilities on site. That will drive loyalty, and it's driving loyalty even without a program. But certainly, that's the next stage.
Amen. Yeah, we're kindred spirits in our beliefs and loyalty programs, and I think that the number of people that come to me and talk to me about building a loyalty program and doing that sort of thing is incredible. It happens all the time, but to do it successfully, it's incredibly difficult. And the lesson here is that you don't have to have a loyalty program for people to book direct, for people to be loyal to your brand. It's got nothing to do with that. Build a fantastic brand that people get around, they understand that consistency, what they're going to get, what kind of service they can deliver. It suits them. Afterwards, once you've done that, then you can look at your loyalty program, just like Dan Murphy's. They didn't start off with the loyalty program. Maybe they played with it at the start. I don't know the history, but I know that now it's successful because they had a fantastic product that everybody understood first. So, chicken and the egg, folks. Make sure that you get everything else right before you start playing in that space, because it's expensive to do, hard to execute very well. So, I'm glad that we agree on that particular one. Do you have anything else to add on that?
Just to your point, yeah, when we launched, we did not spend a dollar on sales marketing because we wanted to ensure that we were providing our guests, yeah, everything that we said that we would. A great overnight sleep, and you got all the, as I said, the bar bistro facilities. Every guest at a nightcap hotel, when they arrive, also get a complimentary drink, a nightcap. It's where the name comes from. Everyone can wander down or next door and enjoy a beer, wine, soft drink, tea, coffee, or water before they go to bed. Um, so it's all about creating that experience is a little bit different than everyone else.
And I would take this as a given that there's a brand guidebook that all new nightcaps get when you refurb them or get them up to put them into the brand.
There's a minimum 300-point checklist. The team, when I say the team, the accommodation team, work our way through from the collateral, the number of coat hangers, the quality of the doona protector, the pillow protector. There's a long list of not only product, but the type of iron and board we put into every room. So it's all part of it.
And would you say that, I mean, obviously you're working at scale with 80 sites.
Today's
Same with
100. It's
suppliers.
112 sites today, but 71 branded. So it
Yeah,
grows just about
never
every month,
working.
but
I can just feel the overwhelming nature of it. Look, so if we're, what would your advice be if we're running three or four or five or 10 sites? Are we going to do the same sort of process?
I would definitely look at it. If there's economies of scale, and let's say it's we're in Victoria. If you had a site in Melbourne, then Bendigo, Ballarat, or there was synergies between where some of the corporate reps would travel, absolutely. But as long as there's a consistent product, if one of them's an old heritage building, the next one's a B&B, and there's no consistencies, then well, what are you trying to achieve? It might be too much cost with not enough reward. So understand what you've got in your product and what consistencies on a brand that you could create, and then work your way through that.
Fantastic segue into the next part. So this is something that I was really aware of when I first visited the Nightcap website, however many years ago, that it was just one brand with everything sort of under the one umbrella. But then most recently, and I recommend anyone listening that you go onto the website and you have a look. There are sort of what I would call three different tiers of accommodation. There's three colors as well. I like that differentiation, which to a consumer can help differentiate the brands within the brand. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, we when we renovated some of the sites, we understood that these were quite unique and didn't quite fit into the core Nightcap brand values. As an example, we've got some upscale hotels that were in locations like Gold Coast, which is 100 plus rooms, Devonport in Tasmania, 88 rooms, predominantly corporate. These are more four and a half star upscale in design, larger at nature, your full breakfast buffet, conference facilities, room service, and the price point was higher. I could stay at the Narrabeen Sands by Nightcap Plus, which is our higher sub brand here, and through peak periods it is 250, 350 a night. So it's certainly at an upper level, but and the guest will pay a bit more. So we had to create a higher sub brand that is more of a as I said, more of an upscale experience, and the guests it is more predominantly more corporate, and the leisure guests are paying a bit more for that experience. At the other end of the scale bar, we also had some sites that was certainly more economy with shared facilities. There was a number of rooms that you did have to walk down the hallway to have a shower or toilet. A little bit like not backpackers, but we've specifically targeted these sites in locations that are close to city centres, close to airports, or maybe coastal beaches. The first one that we launched was in Adelaide, called the Ramsgate Hotel, an iconic beachside hotel that's got this beautiful bar, bistro, restaurant, even a club underneath on a Saturday night. But the site lends itself to that younger millennial, the travellers coming through. They might be on a budget, so our guests might only be being charged $90 to $100 a night for a room with a shared facility. And it's true to the brand promise, but it is more for that young generation. We knew that we had to create a sub brand because the experience and the target market was very different than your core Nightcap brand or your Nightcap Plus brand. So yeah, you'll see these continually expand. And at any given stage, today we have 5 projects under renovations at any given time. I've got Mount Isa in Far North Queensland. That'll be our 72nd Nightcap Hotel. We have Atherton Tablelands inland of Cairns under renovation today. We've got about to start another one in western suburbs of Sydney, and also Morwell in Gippsland in Melbourne here. So it's all systems go.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine like how complex it would be to have this, and especially kind of choosing what you're going to do next, and that leads into the other question that I had. So you're saying that you want to be consistent with the brand promise. Is there a brand promise on the
There
website,
is
by the way, or
you
is
can look
this?
at Experience Nightcap. That'll give you a clear definition between each of the brands and what our guests experience.
And the second part of that, um, when you started in 2014, you knew that you had these 80 sites then, and you're like, okay, I'm going to build a nightcap brand. And at that stage, you probably would have already known that you're going to have some issues with, what fits where in terms of marketing, in terms of consumers understanding that, well, this is for young people that are going out nightclubbing, and this one here is more, kind of luxury. But at the very start, you didn't go down the path of going, we're going to split it all up straight away. And my view is that it takes time to understand these things and understand what fits where and how you're going to make them all tie in together. Can you explain that process a bit so that what people can learn from like how fast you can go? And because what I'm getting at is quite often people or you get a consultancy in and they'll go, this is the plan, but then when you start doing it, it just doesn't work and it doesn't fit in. And then you have to undo yourself, and then it just kind of falls over
Yeah.
that whole plan. Can you explain a bit that sort of that
I
journey?
mean, definitely, if you are creating a brand, you need to be true to the brand promise. And for us, if you go to the Ramsgate Hotel, which is by Nightcap Social, and then you go to the one we recently opened in Essendon, which is the Royal Hotel Essendon by Nightcap Social. That when you arrive, there's a common area for guests to sit, enjoy a drink, open up the laptop, charge, and be sociable. That's what we're all trying to do: create a more sociable future together. So yeah, and that would not that those particular sites would not fit. They've got shared facilities, so they don't fit into our core brand values. We can't have a guest arrive to these sites and expect to have en suites in every room. And the same scale, we had to learn and understand who are the people, who are our guests, and who are the travellers travelling to these locations, and who are the guests that actually want this experience. So that's very important to understand location, destination, and then who the guests are. Then to the other extent, if I scale up and have a look at the Nightcap Plus properties, it's a completely different guest that will pay double the price for their overnight experience. But what the commonalities are, they all love the fact that we have all the facilities of food, beverage, bars and restaurants on site, and they know that they're going to get a good night's sleep because they're in a luxury king core bed. So there's commonalities in product, but the guests do vary, and price does as well.
Uh, Love it. There are some sites that just don't fit and that are just a bit too difficult, and like either you guys would just sell them and just say, you know what, it's just not going to fit in the brand no matter how we try to repackage this, because it's a farm or a campsite, or
Yeah.
because then you can create another sub brand, right? And then but then it doesn't really fit. Do you have ones that don't
Look,
fit at the moment and you can't figure it out yet?
no, we usually try and make them fit. But I mean, there are some more difficult than others. Absolutely, we've got we have some fantastic sites. I've got Mission Beach Resort, which is absolutely fantastic. And at the moment, that's sort of two different standards. So would we dual brand that? I don't know. I'd prefer to keep it simple and get that to a Nightcap Plus down the track. We just had our first new development in Carrum Downs called the Sands Hotel, which is our first 61 room brand new development adjacent to the existing hotel that exists. And so that's probably the opportunities to use future developments, but yeah, we try and make it fit where we can, and it is getting harder, and obviously becomes more
Mm,
capital intensive, and we need to ensure
mm.
that we get the right ROI for our investors and owners.
And look, we're kind of coming towards the end of the episode, so I'm going to just ask one more about this, and we'll do a quick foray into technology. Just in terms of operationally with your team, have you divided them down into the sub brands? Is there kind of like a champion for each of the sub brands, or does that not matter?
No, we all own the brand, inclusive, and probably going back. Why do we sub brand? It's for us. It was to keep it simple. We've got one website with sub brands. Like a number of other groups have done this, whether it be Radisson, Accor with Ibis, and Best Western with Plus. So it's not a new concept, but for us, it was just working smarter with. We can go to a client, one brand with sub brands. So if it's more corporate clientele, you're looking at Nightcap Plus and Nightcap. If you're more leisure, destination, or it might be social, and not mix between that and Nightcap. But
So right, so what you're saying is basically that it's all kind of managed under that one central team, and that everybody's looking
yeah,
after everything, which I think is a way to go. And I think that one thing that you mentioned there is there are other brands. I'm not going to mention those particular ones or any ones, but ones that I've seen that have really missed the mark on the sub branding. And what they've done is they've created kind of tiers, but tiers within tiers within tiers, and then it gets super confusing as a consumer And these brands are not about you. It's about your customer, understanding the customer and driving them to that endpoint of, I know if I book here, this is what I'm going to get. This is what I should expect when I get there. And then it's really easy. And that's the way that you can create the brand, fight with the OTAs, or not fight with the OTAs, but protect your business from the OTAs and have something of value for the customers at the end.
Mm.
So, look, I'm going to close off on that particular segment. And just for the next couple of minutes, I just want to talk about technology because that's something that you had brought up. And you did make a bunch of changes within, especially during COVID. Would love you to just sort of give us a short summary of things that people should think about and the impact it's made to both you and your brand or your company and to the
Yeah.
guests.
No matter if you've got one property or multiple, like we knew, and one positive element to COVID, if there is any, was it gave us time to think and just think outside the box. How can we create greater efficiencies for our teams on site? And we internally worked through the question, what if we could do this? What if we could do that? What are the pain points? Removing some of the collateral and things out of rooms was a necessity. We had to obviously create safe environments for our guests. So there's some easy wins like the in-room compendium that's been sitting in the room for years. That's now a text message. That's a given. One of the our property, our PMS partnership that we have been with for a number of years, we worked through COVID and created a pre-check-in, a mobile pre-check-in system. So now every one of our guests receive a text message prior to arrival to allow them to complete their registration card and terms and conditions and sign and make payment. And that's all populated straight into the system. So for one, that's well, reduces paper, but it speeds up the check-in process to under 2 minutes. All our teams need to do once they see that this guest has completed this pre-check-in is check ID, check credit card, hand them a key, and explain the facilities on site. So it's a much quicker and more efficient check-in process for the guest and our teams. And the other tech part that I see is just taking our business to a whole new level. I mean, prior we would our hotels and pubs, our teams are, it's challenging with staff like all of the industry has experienced and continues to experience. So
Mm.
when you're managing rates, and we didn't have a central system or revenue manager across 100 plus sites, we would rely on our individual sites to make the necessary changes and educate our teams who are multi-skilled and handling many areas of the pub, answering calls, making reservations, pouring beers, serving farmers. So they're multi-skilled. So we made the decision to implement a software out of London called Pace Up, and Pace absolutely has taken our system to a whole new level. We've got one central revenue manager, Alana. She's fantastic, and she manages minimum rates, maximum rates across the entire portfolio, across seasonality, across days, looking at forecast and really taking that to a whole new level. And that system, I looked on the system this morning. That system we have on autopilot. We can override rates and adjust and accordingly, but it's just using technology to your advantage. That system for us yesterday alone had more than 6,000 rate changes in the system. So it's managing our rates hourly, looking at, okay, this Saturday night we've had a strong pickup at a particular site. It's time to adjust the rate accordingly. Or there's an event that we may have missed that's been announced in Noosa. All of a sudden there's a high pickup, and then those rates will be adjusted accordingly. Or if it's slow in an area, maybe it's the rates are being reduced. So these are all. I can't underestimate, the value and return on investment with a simple integration of a revenue management system like this. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and look, that space is only going to get stronger with the machine learning element. The machine will be able to say if you set the rules of, hey, we want the highest price and the maximum occupancy, as long as it has enough variables and it understands what it's trying to do, then the machine will be able to start to to hone this conundrum down as time goes on. And I'm sure that most of the big OTAs as well are looking at this sort of stuff. So invaluable. And I think the other big learning is that you've got one team member that is managing over 100 sites. You know, that's a huge economy there. And then to have that confidence that your rates are right, because obviously that's a huge opportunity for extra margin for the
It
business
is,
overall.
and the other area is it now allows our teams on site to spend more time on welcoming our guests, and you know, we're in the world of hospitality, and it's about ensuring our patrons or guests are having a great time when they're out, or staying over.
Exactly. Look, for the listeners that are international, by the way, a parma is a chicken parmesan. Look it up on Google. It's infamous in Australia. It's one of the best things you'll ever have. So do look it up. Brett, thank you so much for spending the time and taking us through that journey. I literally could do easily another half an hour of talking about some of these conundrums that you've been solving. And what strikes me is that you're very pragmatic about it. You can look at things in different ways and be challenged on your thoughts as well, which I think is what has helped you to get to where you are today. So well done. To finish up, thank you for joining us. Is there anything that we can do for you?
Yeah, look, what we would offer for any of the listeners, you know, where we're all in this together. It's one industry. The more we experience each other's product, you know, we're always open to take our product and listen to feedback. So yeah, anyone that wants to experience one of the Nightcap hotels from now until the end of the year, head to nightcaphotels.com.au, enter promo code accommodation show for a 10% discount. And personally, you know, follow us on LinkedIn and all of our socials, and provide us with your most positive feedback and any constructive that you might have. We're all ears here.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. That's an amazing offer. A great opportunity if you haven't stayed at one of these brands to go and have a stay. Check it out. See what it's like. Send Brett a LinkedIn message and say, "Hey, I've stayed. I heard it on the accommodation, so I like what you're doing here." And like you said, constructive feedback is incredibly invaluable for us, especially from people that work within the industry. So do take them up on that. Once again, thank you so much. I do genuinely appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll see you around the traps over the next few
Awesome. Thanks,
years.
Bart.
Take care. Have a good day.